Hi guys. Okay, as always, there's gonna be so much to cover today. Hopefully it doesn't take a whole hour for me to get through it. But today we are going to be talking about Jesus and the Essenes. I think that's how you pronounce it. By Dolores Cannon. I haven't read a Dolores Cannon book in a minute, so here it is. That's what it looks like. That's the back. I got it from Amazon. That's the spine, and it's like a very glossy cover of Jesus. I really like it. I wish the quality was better. It's like a little, like, kind of like a painting, but like an old painting. But yeah, I'm actually gonna keep it because I'm gonna read a lot from the book. So as with all my reviews, I just take down notes on my phone while reading the book, and we just talk about it. So all this information that I'm getting is from the book, okay? If any of this is like triggering to you, don't even watch the video. But there's gonna be a lot of differing beliefs to, I guess, what you would say like current Christianity or anything Jesus related. A lot of it's similar, a lot of it's very, very different. So if you're offended or triggered by any of that, like literally just leave now, before I just like delete your comment in like 1 second, because I really don't care for your comment if it's going to be annoying or rude to be in my page. So I'm just gonna start saying everything from the book that I liked. Astronomy was called astron, and they had telescopes back when Jesus was alive. They knew about the solar system and that there were 10 planets. Juno was the 10th planet and was smaller than Pluto. Apparently it was the one that influenced the orbit of all the other planets. I forgot to mention one thing as I'm literally reading this stuff. So if you're not familiar with Dolores Cannon's work, you have to have an open mind, first of all. But basically, I'm just gonna tell you how it is, okay? Basically, she puts a client under, what do they call it? Like quantum hypnosis. Puts the client under quantum hypnosis. Whatever comes up, comes up. This client had like 24 different past lives that came up. One out of all of those lives, one of the past lives was way back in the time when Jesus was alive. But before Jesus died, the guy's life that we're accessing, he died before Jesus was able to be crucified. So we got those we got like later on in Jesus's death, like the crucifixion and all of that was seen through the client's eyes after the client, not after the past life person died. Does that make sense? So while they're on the other side, they can kind of see what's going on with Jesus' crucifixion at that time. I don't know how else to explain that, but yeah. I don't know why they couldn't just go to the Akashic records in the first place. That's like literally what I would have done, but okay. But no, I understand why, because they have to build a rapport of like how this guy way back then had the connection to like Jesus somewhat. Okay, so does that make sense? So they're going back to the past. They're talking to his name is Sudi. I think that's how you spell it. Say it. Suddhi. So when I refer to Sudi, that is the guy's life that they're accessing from way in the past, and they're talking to him through the trance of the hypnosis, if that makes sense. So that's who Dolores is talking to. Does that make sense? I hope it does, because it does to me. Okay. They also had electricity back then. And they also used crystal energy, but only in the Essene community. Dolores asks Sudi if they fear death in their time period, and if they also believe they can go to very bad places after death, so like hell. And since his sister was about to die, he says, this is something that this person has died expecting to see. For there is nothing there but what you create yourself. And in so believing, so it shall be, for thoughts and beliefs are very strong. So basically he's saying that at that time, the Essenes were very, I guess you can related to like the mystery school teachings from Atlantis. So basically, like, they teach like the secrets of the universe and like metaphysical stuff, spirituality stuff like that. Stuff that the masses are not going to probably believe, but that like the really wise people and like this, I guess you can say the star seeds would actually relate to. So I'm now reading 118 and 119. Oh yeah, so I don't know if I just said that, but basically he's saying that hell doesn't exist unless you expect for it to exist. Then maybe that's what you'll experience if you feel like you're unworthy of going to heaven, or like what you would believe to be heaven or the afterlife. You would probably be stuck in a reality that you created for yourself if you don't feel worthy, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Okay, so Dolores says, I'm reading from page 118, 119. Dolores says, is there anything in your writings that indicate what we can expect when we leave the body? He says, there are many things in our writings. Yes, it speaks of the feeling of great peace that descends upon one. When you look down upon yourself and realize that you have passed over the threshold, that you are no longer one with the physical and are a being that is totally what you would call a soul again, or a spirit. There are people who are confused after they die. They would be greeted by someone who would perhaps help smooth the pathways that they must walk, and all who are there to help wish you well. There is no need to fear, for nothing can harm you. He says that it is found in the writings of the wise ones, who are known as the Kalu. And apparently the Kalu, I believe I remember, they were from Atlantis, like the remnants of Atlantis. He says in some of the books and scrolls, they talk about places that you can go after you cross that are very bad, frightening places. I'm pretty sure it's just like stuff passed down from generation to generation of realities that have been created, and then through the other side, those realities have been communicated through the spirits of the ones that have experienced those bad places into ones that are currently now living, to maybe help you control your reality and your beliefs so that you don't go to those realms if you feel unworthy. That's what I'm gathering from it. He says, then there is something that this person has expecting to see. Okay. What if someone wants to die very suddenly in a bad way? Dolores says, like, would their death be any different? And he says, no, but they might wake up confused about it, and therefore someone would be there to help them. And then Dolores says, what about a child that dies? To which he says, a child is very close to what they were in the beginning, which is a soul, for they have not totally lost the memories of before, and therefore they are very accepting of this, more so than people who have perhaps lived for a great long period of time, those who want nothing more than to go back to the way that they were before they crossed. To a great extent, it's easier for a child to understand death. Children are more open to what is going on about them. Dolores says, when do they usually stop being open? And then he says it's because not even the fact that they reach maturity, but others' forces of oppressing, that are pressing and oppressing them. For example, like if you tell your kid like they're foolish for whatever reason, like it's one of the worst things that you can do to a child, for they will then think that everything they do is foolish, because a child takes things very literally and they must believe in themselves, and therefore we create the pressure that would close them off to all of this spirituality stuff. So then Dolores asks if there's any writings about evil spirits. He says there are no such thing as evil spirits. There is nothing that is totally evil. There is always good in everything. It may be very small, but there is always some part of that is good. The things that you are perhaps calling evil spirits are what others would call demons, the mischievous ones that wish to cause trouble because they get some type of enjoyment out of this. A lot of these are misshapen spirits who have been through their experiences changed, so that with love and guidance that they may still follow the right pathways again, but with fear and intolerance they are lost forever. She says there's been stories of evil spirits trying to enter the bodies of the living, and he says there are instances when that's possible, but it's usually because either the person is very open to that, like very open to being taken over, or no longer wishes to inhabit that body, so they're kind of removed from it, leaving it open for others. And Dolores says, do you think people give them more power by fearing them? And he says, yeah, you surround yourself with good thoughts and energy and request that only high-minded individuals surround you. Okay. She says, then everyone doesn't believe the way you do. In your teachings, do you have a belief in what we call it reincarnation, the rebirth of the soul. And he says, rebirth, it has been known for all, for surely it is sure, it is true. Only those of the ignorant and uninformed can fear the thought of reincarnation, as you call it. So now let me go back to my notes. Some of the stuff in the Dead Sea Scrolls is written in Aramaic from Samaria, and some of it is very ancient Hebrew, according to Sudi. Essenes translates to the Holy One, but Sudi didn't want to translate what Qumran meant. I don't know if I'll mention it again, but there's a lot of things that Sudi didn't want to explain because it goes against the oath that he made with the Essenes. So they're very protective of their knowledge, but there's like loopholes and ways that Dolores found for him to answer certain questions. The people who lived there at Qumran were concerned with one main objective, the accumulation and preservation of knowledge and the passing on of that knowledge through teaching those who were qualified to learn. When Dolores asks about Moses parting the Red Sea, Sudi says to go against energy laws and part a sea is to cause great damage. What Moses did is walk on water instead, basically by setting the intention and having faith that he could do so. So basically he was like using energy, the laws of energy or whatever. He was willing the water to be solid, and then it became solid on the parts that he wanted it to be solid in. Let me see. Now I'm reading 164 and 165. I'm just like, he says, with faith, anything is possible. You must believe. Okay, here they talk about the Ark of the Covenant. Okay. Okay. Sudi says that the Ark of the Covenant is a channel in which to communicate with Yahweh. It is part of the communication. It is also part of an energy exchange. It is said that it held all the secrets of the world and the universe. Dolores says it has been said that it contained the 10 Commandments. And Sudi says the books are there, yes, but it is, like I say, a channel to Yahweh. It is part of something that was once much greater in another time, and we were allowed to keep some of the secrets. In this manner, you may learn the secrets of everything. I think it's the Levi, keep the secrets of the Ark. They are the sons of Aaron. So Dolores asks, where is the Ark now, and does it even still exist? He says it is protected. They, the Levi, have kept the secrets among them. It is said that in the time of Babylon and later, that several times it was captured by kings and emperors who wished to bend the power to their will, and in so doing their kingdoms fell. And the Ark was again put in hiding many times, and it has again gone into hiding. This was a gift. The knowledge was given to Moses and Aaron to build this, and then Yahweh realized basically that man was not ready for this, and therefore man must be protected from this because the energy was too great. And then she asks if the Ark can be destroyed, and he says no, it can never be destroyed. It is only by an act or a will of God that it may be destroyed, and it is protected by the Levi. She said that she heard that the Ark was always dangerous, and he says, to those who have not pure hearts and right intentions, yes, it would kill you. The energy level of this is so great that it could cause your heart to stop or your mind to cease to function, to no longer inhabit the body. To which she says, this is why Yahweh thinks man is not ready for it. And he says, because for so many years, man tried to bend it to his will, to do what he wished it to do. It is said that he who had this would rule the world. This is why it is in hiding. And she says, will man ever be ready for something like that? And he says, who am I to judge? It can only be hoped for. It is said that many people were killed by this. At one time it was in the inner sanctuary of the Temple of Solomon, but the power of it almost destroyed the inner sanctuary, and it was hidden from there also. She says, do you think the Ark of the Covenant has something to do with the ability to cross the Red Sea? And he says that the Ark was not there. It was not made until 40 years in the 40 years of the wandering. It was later made in which to store the tablets and the papyri of the laws, and Moses made the exterior. The Kalu brought the energy source to put inside. So it has to do with Atlantis, if it has to do with the Kalu. Okay, now we're going to this note. According to our biblical versions, after they crossed the Red Sea, the Hebrews were led by a cloud of smoke by day and a cloud of fire by night. It is said that the staff of Moses upon it had a great crystal that would glow, and this would tell the direction to go. And it would dim when he was going the wrong way, basically. So now I'm on page 171. The crystal, okay, yeah. Ezekiel. So talking about Ezekiel now. Sudi says that his stories in some of the scrolls, Ezekiel was a prophet and a wise man. He lived by himself most of his life. It is said that later in his life that he was told he would not die because he would be taken directly to God. To me, this sounds like vanity, though it is said that he was visited by some of the others and taken away. I do not believe that these are people of God. And then Dolores is like, what do you mean by the others? Sudi says there are others similar to us, but not the same. It was by these that he was visited. They are not of earth, they are from elsewhere, though we are not told where. We are just told that as far back as there is a remembrance, there have been visitors, and some people are more blessed, more chosen, whatever. I'm not sure what the qualifications are, but some are visited and some are again taken away, but some are left here to speak of the experience. It is said that his followers told of his leaving in a, I believe they used the term chariot of fire. It may have looked to them like a chariot, but it was more like one of the flying machines of old than a chariot. It may have spit fire. I do not know. There were different types. So Dolores says maybe the writers who have speculated that Ezekiel's vision was of a UFO may not have been very far from the truth after all. Sudi says, and he went, whether he decided to go with them or they just decided they wanted him, I do not know. It is said that he has never been heard from again. I have no way of knowing. I am not real familiar with this scroll. It is not one of the laws. I have heard of it and read it when I was but a child. So then Dolores is thinking that she was like, I'm curious as to what he meant by the flying machines of old. And Sudi says, very long ago, there were machines that had been built that went through the air like birds. Now, come on. Can you imagine, like, ancient people in Jesus Christ's time having, well, there definitely weren't planes. I'm pretty sure they were spaceships from ETs, because they were obviously not planes. Like but you know what? There were those hieroglyphs in Egypt that had like helicopters or something like that. So maybe a machine like that, or I don't know, maybe that could have been like a vision of the future vehicles. I don't know. But I truly do believe 100% that there were definitely UFO, not even UFO, but like actual legitimate spaceships back in the time of Jesus, because there's a lot of stuff that I'm going to mention actually later. But there's just been so many paintings from like that time period, or like historical paintings. A lot of them have like literally spaceships in them. And like, why would the artist draw spaceships in them if that actually wasn't what he saw? You know what I mean? Also, so Sudi says the knowledge was learned and they used it for the most part. It has been lost now from what I understand. There are still some of the people, the masters, who have the knowledge, but it is not used. The knowledge is in the library. It is part of the teachings of the mysteries, and it is just better not to use this. And Dolores says, how were the machines powered? And he says, I do not know. They use something for a central focus. Other than that, this is not my study. I just know a little from what I have spoken to others about. It is said that the Babylonians had the knowledge in the early days. I do not know how true this was. The people who gave the knowledge to us were the Kalu. It was before the speech to others was cut off that the Kalu had the ability to do this. They had many great things, but the ability to use them was lost, or if not lost, decided that it was better not to be utilized because it had brought about so much harm and destruction. Okay, Dolores says, if your people have the knowledge, could they make these flying machines if they had to? Sudi says, if it was necessary, yes. I'm not an engineer, I do not know. And Sudi's description of the machines were that they were made out of different things. Some were made out of wood, others made out of metals. bronzes, gold, strange blends of metals, and some were very small and some were quite large. But interestingly enough, he says that they used them in war. He said they were also utilized for travel, but the greatest ability that they considered of them was the ability to overcome an enemy from a great distance utilizing the craft. He said they had weapons that were placed upon the machines as well. And Dolores says if the enemies have the same kind of machines, and he said not all of them, but most of them did not. Dolores says, does your story say what happened to take the knowledge away? He says the world was destroyed, a cataclysm. I do not know of exactly what type. It was as if the forces of nature just rebelled and the earth exploded. And she says, do you think it was caused by the war that was going on with these machines? And he says, I do not know, I was not there. To which literally I would have stopped everything if I was Dolores and literally had taken him to like the Akashic records to literally figure this out, because this is so interesting. I would have been so sidetracked by that. He said the Kalu were some of the people involved in this war, but he could not remember who some of the others were. I wondered if their fighting was confined to just one part of the world, and he says that no, they were fighting in several areas. There was great unrest. And then it gave Dolores an uncomfortable feeling, because she said history could be repeating itself, because it sounded too much of like what was going on in the world today and everyone being in unrest basically. What else? Sudi says that at one time the moon had atmosphere and was alive, and it is now destroyed and dead. Apparently one of the reasons the flood occurred in the time of Noah is because God had given people the ability to telepathically communicate as a gift, but they had abused it and tried to use it to somehow become powerful like God. So then God noticed this and took that power away. You know how I always say that like literally I feel like so drawn to like telepathy and like telekinesis and like magical abilities like that with the mind and stuff like that. I mean, like, look at what I just read. Like, there's a reason why I feel so drawn to like those types of abilities, because they feel to me like deep within like they were real before, and maybe I have experienced them in another life. It just feels like too I guess like coincidentally that I'm drawn to those abilities so much that there's no way it's a coincidence. Do you know what I'm saying? Okay. When asked, have you ever had contact with beings from another world or another planet, Sudi says yes. And he says it is those of the Watchers who guard what we do. They are pleased in our efforts to keep the knowledge to bring about the peace. Then he says they were contacted in person and different ways. Then he gets very defensive about it out of nowhere and says that he can't talk about it anymore. So I wonder if someone in the liminal space that he's in, like spiritually, tells him that he can't talk about it, or if it's like an intuition, like gut feeling, or if it's someone like physically in wherever he is in his life, like telling him to not talk about that. But it's crazy because so many writings, so many books refer to the Greys as the Watchers. And I'm pretty sure other civilizations of ETs are probably referred to as the Watchers, but I think it's the Greys, to be honest. I don't think it's the Pleiadians. But anywho, now I'm on page 185. So why does it say K? Oh, okay. So now Sudi is dead and he's on the other side, on the spirit side. So this is him talking on the spirit side. There is more danger in the knowledge that all share on this side in the hands of the warped on yours. Dolores says, have you ever heard the term the Watchers? He says, yes, the Watchers are those from outside, from other worlds, who have been for as long as there is memory here on this earth. They have been studying mankind as a whole, and hopefully they wish us to succeed. They wish us to find the right path, but they are there perhaps just in case it is not found. Dolores says, so there is life on other worlds. And he says, and why not? Have you the conceit of all the universe at saying that this is God's only point of life, that he created all of the heavens and all that is, and decided that on this one minute, insignificant planet, that this was the only place that he wished to make life? This is the greatest conceit that there could be. So then she asks him about the Watchers. And Suri says, the Watchers mean the highest intentions. They wish to hurt no one. I'm not saying that there are not those who are of the same high-mindedness. There are others, but the Watchers are our own protection, and more or less safety valve. If we were to completely destroy ourselves, they would try to avert this by whatever means that they could. Because for us to destroy this earth, would it not have repercussions upon the whole universe? You cannot destroy one body and not have echoes forever. And time again, all of Dolores Cannon's findings and knowledge show this exact same thing. The Galactic Federation, or like all these other ET civilizations, will do everything in their power to make sure that nothing, like complete total annihilation, occurs on the planet, because the ripple effect of it damages a lot of dimensions and damages a lot of the universe too, if we were to like kill ourselves or stuff like that. She said, Dolores asked if any of the Watchers ever incarnate on any of the planets, and Suri says they have assumed forms that would be considered human. Yes, they have done it in our world many times, but it takes a very special individual to be aware of them, one who is very open to influence of emanations from them, because the replicas, as it were, are very good. The beings, the forms that they assume are replicas, they are not exactly human, but then there are also those who would take the forms that humans would consider more normal. They would have bodies, yes, they are not to the point that they are just beings of energy. They are not those that are, but they are not of, there are those that are, but they are not of the Watchers. Dolores says, then they are not born into a body then as a baby, as humans are. And Suri says, there actually have been spirits of Watchers who were born into bodies, but then they are as human as you, with a more high-minded soul, perhaps. Which is what I feel like I might be, to be honest. Like that's what I'm saying. And then Dolores says, you mentioned beings of energy, are they different? And Suri says, yes, they have passed the need for a physical body. Dolores says, I have read the term light beings in many books. He said this could be another term for them. Suri says, some of them are souls that never left the side of God at the formation. Some of them are those who have again attained that perfection. Some are from other worlds that are beyond the capability of human understanding. They are so far advanced that they look on us as a human looks on an amoeba. Dolores says, do you think we will ever attain that type of development? And he says, not with the present pathways. And then Dolores says, do these other beings revere Yahweh as well? And he says, all revere Yahweh. God is all, and all are God. And Dolores says, is there any special way that the Watchers help? And Suri says, if they influence one person, he could possibly influence even a country. Then they have done good. They have done their purpose. In this manner, they are helping to keep the peace, helping to, how do I say that? Keep the balance, as it were, intact. Dolores says, do they have spirits like you and I do? And Suri says, all spirits are the same. Dolores says, do you know which other worlds they come from? And he says, they come from several groups, but that is not knowledge that I am allowed to pass on. So he was being censored from that side also. He did, however, admit that they were from within our galaxy, but not from our own solar system. They have been watching the Earth since there were men placed upon it, and I asked about any possible life forms in our solar system. Suri says, yes, there is life here other than ours, but perhaps not always in life forms as you would consider them. Some are spirits, but there are places here that there are the beginnings of life. When people have crossed over, they often go to the schools that are there, but if they have a series of especially difficult lives and they do not desire to go to school at that time, they will go to the resting place for a while. When a person is there, they sound very sleepy and will not communicate. This place was also mentioned in my book, Between Death and Life. The spirit just wants to rest and sleep and not be bothered about anything. I have had people stay there for a few years or a few hundred. It just depends on how hectic their last life was or what they are trying to forget. Time does not matter there any more than time matters while they are at the school. But when they are in the resting place, it is useless to ask questions. Okay. Surprisingly, Sudi talks about how the Kalu are from Atlantis and that Atlantis was indeed destroyed by misuse of a crystal, mischanneling of power, and people escaped in spaceships and some escaped by the sea. Sudi says that prophecies can be changed. They do not have to occur. If enough entities put the right energy into it, this does not have to happen. Nothing is set until it has occurred. It was also shown that some of the Christian beliefs and rituals have come literally directly from the Essenes, notably the rite of baptism and the passing of the cup, that those were not created by Jesus Christ. They were created by what Jesus Christ knew already of the teachings of the Essenes. The reports of the Dead Sea Scrolls show that Christianity was not created with the ministry of Jesus, but was born out of the teachings of these apparently self-denying men and women who devoted their lives to loving all of mankind and preserving knowledge for future generations, which is just what I said, basically. According to Sudi, the men of Ur, far in the past, brought the knowledge of some of the prophecies as well as the symbol of the cross. He explains that the cross has a loop for a head and it has two short arms. Yes, he is talking about the Ankh, or yeah, that's how you pronounce it, Ankh. So you can imagine if the true symbol of, I guess you'd say, Christianity is actually an Ankh and not a cross. I've heard many things from other sources. This is just my notes myself. I've heard many things from other sources before that the reason it has a loop is to signify the constant movement of energy in and out of your body, like eternally. That it's like an eternal energy movement. And this is just what I've heard, take it or leave it, that apparently like the actual cross that we have, the one that we have now, like the T, is one that prevents our constant flow of eternal energy from being constant, that it should be constant, that it should have the loop. That's just what I've heard. Also, Sudi says when Jesus came to earth as a boy, the whole town of Qumran saw the stars that night and waited for him, and when he arrived, it was by a bright beam of light, apparently from a falling star. I honestly believe that it could have been a spaceship teleporting Jesus to his new home, and they just used like a beam of light to, what do they call it? Dematerialize Jesus and like transport him, like teleporting him to the home, but as a baby. And then, but what's well, yeah, because you know how like Mary was a virgin apparently, but then Sudi says that Mary apparently was not a virgin. So it's like conflicting, but like I don't think she has to be a virgin in order for Jesus to, you know, be teleported from the spaceship. I honestly, like, if you really think about it, I honestly think Jesus' soul, maybe not his body, but I honestly think Jesus' soul is like a 10th dimensional, 11th dimensional being. So technically he would be an ET, and technically he would be I guess you would call an alien. But I think he was very much in a human body that was just, because of such of the high vibration of his soul, because it's so high vibrational from the dimension it came from, I think that's why he was able to, in a human body, perform miracles, or like all this stuff with like alchemy, like turning water into wine, stuff like that, because of his DNA. I think it's because of his DNA and because of the high vibration that he was, and because he was an extraterrestrial. I truly believe that. Like, I truly believe that Jesus Christ was an extraterrestrial. Like, there, I said it. So yeah, like maybe he was born into a human body, but I do believe that his soul was so high dimensional, and that's why they refer to him as an ascended master. Sudi mentions Jesus' parents were together many times in other lives, and when describing Jesus as a baby, he says that when you looked into Jesus' eyes, you just knew that he knew all the secrets of the universe and just gloried in them. Also, according to Sudi, Jesus had red hair and his eye color would change colors. And I don't know if I mentioned it already, but yes, everyone in Qumran knows that reincarnation is real and that there is no true end to your soul. I'm probably going to mention it again, but just in case I don't, obviously, like the religion of Christianity is going to, and all other religions too, except the ones that do believe in reincarnation, are going to obviously hide the fact that reincarnation is real because they want to scare you into believing that you only live one life. And what is the best way to exert control on a lot of people by making them believe that they only live one life? I am 100% certain that we don't live just one life. I just know for a fact. I don't know how to prove it other than the other millions of examples out there that reincarnation is real, of like babies remembering other lives. Like, why would a baby lie, and why would that be in their imagination in the first place if you're gonna say that the excuse is, oh, they're just imagining it or whatever? Like yeah, but why would a baby even, like, how would a baby even know to imagine that? Do you know what I mean? Like, where is that even coming from? Like, there are people's explanations of like that is just like dumb. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So also, according to Sudi, the way they knew Mary to be the mother of the Messiah was through her astrological chart. The Essenes were allowed to have the knowledge in which to find out who she was. It is said that it has to do with the points at which the stars lie when you are born and the path that they take while you live. In one of the synagogues, Jesus is teaching people about the different universes and how all our lives are interconnected. He uses the example of a tapestry to simplify what he is talking about. Okay, stop right there. Because why did Dolores Cannon literally not, I guess in the moment it's different, obviously, when in hindsight's 2020, and obviously when you're in the moment it's very different. She's probably very focused on the client and everything, but excuse me, she literally said in the book that Sudi said that Jesus Christ was teaching the people, I'm assuming like the Essenes group maybe, or I don't know, some of the normal people maybe as well. Jesus Christ was teaching the people that there are different universes and that they're all interconnected. Okay. The year that this book was published, just so you know, is like way before I think even the word like multiverse was a thing, or like even the concept of other universes. I think this book was published in like 1970 or something like that, or like 1970s or like 1980s. I don't even think, like, for example, I don't even think like Marvel comic books were using the word multiverse or the concept of the multiverse then. So this to me honestly was probably the most impactful knowledge from the entire book, and probably from all of Dolores Cannon's books, is the fact that Jesus Christ allegedly, okay, all I can say is allegedly, but Jesus Christ allegedly was teaching people about the different universes, not the different galaxies, because they know the difference between galaxies and universe, the different universes. Like, if more people knew about this would probably create chaos, I guess you can say. But this would literally change everyone's reality. Like, you don't even know. This is changing my reality, and I'm the one that's open, like so open to this information, and it's still changing my own thoughts and processes. Like, literally my brain is probably getting rewired as I think about it. But it's like, could you imagine just like that Jesus, like, could you imagine that it be taught in like Christianity, for example, that there are different universes? That would just change everything to like the greatest way that I can even imagine it. Like, I don't even know how to express it in words, but just people knowing that Jesus Christ taught about different universes, that there are other universes, is just so, like, it's just so grand and just so, like, I can't even put into words. But just, like, imagine that for a second. Like, imagine that reality if we lived in it. That is just so crazy to me, in the best way possible, obviously. But I don't know, I feel like reality would just be so different. Like, even if just people knowing that that's once again, it's gonna lead me back into Marvel and back into that, because I'm gonna always say it again, because I believe this to be so true. Why do you think the Marvel movies have such a huge impact on people, and why people love it so much? The concept of, like, the multiverse. I know a lot of people find it annoying, but the concept of the multiverse is real. Like, I don't know how else to prove it to you other than quantum physics. But yeah, like, there's a reason why we connect to the concept of the multiverse so much, and the concept of these heroes with these abilities and blah blah blah. Okay, Jesus' physical description was that of a man with gray eyes, light reddish yellow hair, and a short beard. He was slightly taller than the average man of that time, very slender, of a fine mold. He was wearing a light blue robe and the prayer robe, which is a long cloth that the Jewish men wear even today while in synagogue. It is draped about their head and shoulders like a shawl. His eyes are very piercing. They stare out of his face like something alive. After so many attempts and skipping ahead in time, Sudi finally gave Dolores the name of Ben Joseph. Yeshua was his name, but it was pronounced Yeswa. So it's Yes hyphen UAH. So I think it's Yeswa or Yesua, but there's no H there, like Yeshua. It's okay. Stop. Also, Ben means son of, so that's what my name means. So that's why he was called Ben Joseph, since he was the son of Joseph. Sudi also says he did not teach Yeshua anything, but merely helped open Yeshua's eyes to what was already there, because he already knew he was enlightened, and I guess he already knew he was the Messiah. And after I had finished, okay, so this is from Dolores' mind. After I had finished writing this book, I came across a little known book called the, I think I spelled it wrong. I think I spelled this wrong. I copied pasted it by accident incorrectly. Anyways, sorry. These men had found written reports in the Vatican Library that were sent to Rome during the time of Christ. They had them translated from the original language. One of these contained a description of Jesus that amazingly matches everything that Sudi has said about him. So now, sorry. Page 236. Okay. When Jesus left the synagogue after the service, he was going to go to his parents' house. Since Sudi was not planning on speaking with him, we probably would not have been able to learn much more, so I decided to move Sudi another 5 years ahead in time to an important day in his life. Sudi says that he has heard of Yeshua and that he is beginning to preach to the others, and that the word is being spread. It is said that already in the few months that he has spoken, that great crowds come to listen to what he has to say in hopes that he will perform a miracle. It is known that the powers are very strong that flow through him. It is said that he has cured a leper who but touched his robe. He said that it is the man's faith that made him whole, and that how could such a one, having so great a faith, be but part of a man? Therefore he would be whole. It is also said that there were the people who could not see, who could see. There are many miracles that have been said to have happened. The only one that I am sure of is the leper. Is it leper or leper? I don't know. A friend of mine saw this happen. He said that believing that just to touch the cloak would to make him whole, that his faith had done so. And then Dolores says, was it because his faith was so great in Yeshua? And Sudi says, no, that his faith was so great in God. Dolores says, is that how you explain what happened, or can you explain it? Sudi says, I know how it is done, but to explain it is something else. The giving of the energy to heal, to be accepted, is part of it. It must be accepted, and it is also said to be to have faith in this. So therefore, the man's faith made it possible for him to be whole. Dolores says, it happened because the man was willing to accept the energy. Then you don't think it was anything that Yeshua himself did. Sudi says, Yeshua was a channel. I can't explain it any better. He would often go into meditation with the person to be healed, and while there, in a meditative state, he would transfer some of his energy to them. And sometimes people who were looking on could see the transferred energy. Dolores says, what did it look like when they saw it? And Sudi says, it looked like a glow of light from his hand to the affected part of the person's body, and their auras would start to glow brighter to where people who ordinarily did not see the aura could actually see their auras. And Dolores says this would explain the halos shown around Jesus in old paintings. In the earliest ones, he is shown having a halo all over his body, and in later ones, he is just shown with a halo around his head. This must have come from the stories of people seeing his aura brighten during these energy exchanges as he performed his miracles. Sudi says this is why they would meditate first. The person would say they wanted to be healed, and they would get into a meditative state of mind so that they would be receptive of the energy, because if they resisted, then it would not take place. I cannot explain it any better. Okay, so to share love with one another is the greatest thing that you can do, because you are sharing God, or because it is sharing God. Jesus knew that he was the Messiah since he was very young, but he was not allowed to proclaim so because they would call him crazy, even though I think people knew he was the Messiah by just how he spoke with people. So now top of 238. Okay. Dolores says, if we are all the sons of God and also the sons of man, what is different about Yeshua? Sudi says he has learned his lessons and he has followed his path to its completion. Dolores says, so you think this means he is perfect? Sudi says he shall be. It was his choice to come once again in order to give this light to people. He did not have to come back. Dolores says, after this life, will he ever return again? Sudi says, so it has been said, but for what purpose, I know not. Okay. So basically just Sudi confirms that Jesus Christ will return to the planet Earth in one way or another. I truly believe that the way that he has already come back is through fractals of every soul on this planet, of like what you would say good people, if that makes sense. I mean, what better way to come back onto the planet than fractal your soul of your Christ consciousness into every other being that, you know, believes in those teachings. That's just what I believe. When Sudi is about to die, Dolores says, does it bother you to think that your time is almost up? And he says, why should I? This makes every little sense. This is foolishness. Why not pass on and learn from this experience and start another? So Sudi is very eager to move on already to the next incarnation of his life. When Sudi dies and crosses over, he tells Dolores that there is no dying, that there is only other forms of existence. How many more times do we need to be told that that is the case? So 2:45 now. Okay. So basically Sudi dies out of because of a coughing sickness. Dolores says, do you know what caused that? And Sudi says, who knows? The dust. It had been chosen before that this would be the manner of my death. It was to help in my growth. Sudi knew that he was going to die like that the whole time. Dolores says, oh, so to die in a certain way has an importance. And Sudi says, yes, to learn to deal with it on a day-to-day basis and how to live with it as well as die with it. So it is very important to your soul how you die, because, well, depending if it's a quick death or not, but if you die with an illness, that was your contracted way of dying, because your soul wanted to learn and grow of how to just like experience that sickness, I guess. He had had much pain before he died, but he had been able to control it by use of the mind and manipulation of the energies. Dolores says, this is good. You didn't have to suffer because you knew how to do these things. Many people don't know how to use these mind processes. To which Sudi says, most people do actually, deep within. They have just closed themselves off to this knowledge, and this is a great tragedy. It can be regained by the practicing of meditation, of opening oneself up to the knowledge that is there. It is there just to grasp, but you have to open oneself up. You must start from within. That decision must be made that you shall be open. Then it shall begin to come, and it shall grow. And Dolores says, so in other words, they have to want it themselves. And he says, yes, just as all healing must come from within. It has become time to pass on this knowledge. If people are ready for the seeds, then they shall grow, and it is up to them. Oh my god, this part is so crazy. So he was watching as his body was being prepared. I asked what would be done with it. Sudi says, it shall be burned as I requested. It shall be burned outside the walls of Nazareth, and my ashes shall be taken to the community. There they shall be scattered to the four winds. As far as I know, I don't think they did reincarnate. As far as I know, I don't think they did not reincarnation, cremation back then. Like, weren't you like not allowed to do that? I don't remember what the Bible says. I really don't remember, but maybe I'm wrong. But I swear, like, you're not allowed to do cremation. So, sorry, I thought I just heard the door open. So from Sudi to be doing that was just wild. Jesus knew from a very young age how he would die, and this is the hardest part to accept, is knowing that even with his foreknowledge that he would still love man so much, humans, to give up of himself for them. Even though this is shown in the book, I still do not believe that I think this is, oh my gosh, I have so much more. I still do not believe that Jesus Christ died for our sins, because I don't believe that we had sins to begin with, nor do I believe that we have sins still now. I just fully 100% believe that the whole concept of sin is to promote fear and to take our power away from the powerful human beings that we are, the powerful souls and spirits that we are. And it just creates, okay, picture this, like imagine just living with the fact that you're not like worthy just because you're born from sin, that everyone's born with sin. Like, can you imagine like how much negative energy just that thought, just that one thought, how much negative energy that creates? Like a negative thought like that in your body and your soul like really impacts you. That thought in itself could probably literally create cancer in your body. Like literally, that negative thought could be trapped in your subconscious for who knows how long, how many lifetimes, and could literally affect your physical body. So why are you thinking that? Like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, I don't care if you're offended by it, but like, do you even think about things? Like, do you really think that we're already born with sin? Like, what? Like, okay, think about it. If we're all made in Jesus' image or in God's image, whatever, that would mean that God himself is sinful or would be born out of sin as well. Like, do you not get it? That like we're mirrors of Jesus and we're mirrors of God. Obviously there's terrible, horrible people, but like that doesn't mean that we're born in sin or that God is tallying up your sins that you create in this planet. Like, it's just, okay, I'm getting on a rant, sorry. Okay, but no, I did want to express that because it makes no damn sense to me. Okay, so Dolores is wondering if the miracles are true. Like, are these stories true? Sudi says, yes, miracles is a term that you would use. There are things that you would call miracles. They are not in a sense miraculous, for everyone has this ability. It is innate and inborn. One could develop this ability if one had the discipline and the time to meditate and have the mental disciplines that one must do so that one could do similar things. He was in tune with himself, and with the spiritual planes as well as having great ability. And the combination of these helped him to work what are called miracles. It's just using the laws of nature in the universe. In his knowledge of these laws, he was able to do things that others considered miraculous. You just must have the knowledge and the will to use it. He was just a very clear channel. So he was just very fine-tuned. His abilities were very fine-tuned. His teachers could do things like raising objects or changing lead to gold, but he could do better things like breathing life back into someone who was dead, changing water to wine, or what have you. And he could, using these abilities on those who were sick, he could balance their energies to where they would feel well again. And then Dolores asked, how was he able to change water to wine? Sudi says it's hard to explain, but it's like a combination of several abilities just working together in tandem. Everything he did applied to the natural laws of the universe. It's just that some of them he applied on the earthly plane that usually apply to the spiritual plane. They can apply to the earthly plane, but they have to have a medium, like a human being, to help and to channel it. Yes. Yeah, so he would, just about like the miracles that he had done. He could also bring people back to life from death. Dolores says, once someone has left the body, wouldn't the body begin to deteriorate? Sudi says, only after a certain time though. Like, you wouldn't be able to do this with someone who was 6 months dead, but sometimes I've heard after 2 days would probably be tops when you can bring someone back from the dead. Okay, I'm trying to like skim past this because I have so much more to cover. According to Jesus, he said that after about 2 days max. Okay, the part where Jesus fed a lot of people, Sudi says this is done through the natural laws of bounty. If you have need and believe it will be there, then it will be there. So basically, like, there's like the thought that maybe it was all an illusion and not actually even real food, that Jesus was able to conjure up all this food for all these people out of nowhere. But even like the illusion of being fed did feed you, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know how that, I can understand it, but yeah. Apparently Jesus didn't have the crown of thorns on when he was placed on the cross, but it was taken off before being placed on the cross. When Jesus' soul left his body, his soul stood next to his mom, and his mom knew he was right there next to her, like she could feel his presence. After 3 days of being in the tomb, Jesus' body disappears into dust, and only the masters are the ones who knew to perform this feat, the masters of the spirit realm. This is something that apparently has been misinterpreted down through the ages. I think what they were trying to do was to show that even the physical body can be made to transcend time and space. The tomb was sealed and guards placed, so there was no chance of the body being stolen and taken away by normal means. It had to be shown that only abnormal, supernatural forces could have removed the body. This must be part of the lesson of the empty tomb, to prove that those higher forces do exist and that he was one of them. The real miracle of the resurrection has been obscured. This miracle was the disintegration of the physical body and the appearance of the spiritual body. Okay, I don't even remember what page 269 and 270 said, but I can't make this video an hour long. Like, I just can't. So you go read that, and let me just finish this video. Sudi says on the spirit side that Jesus will come to earth again, and those that know will know beforehand. Also, his goal was to show humanity through his example how they should live, that the greatest lesson to be learned was to love their fellow creatures on earth. If love was present, no further negative karma could be created. If love was present, there could be no more wars and suffering. Humanity could finally get off of the wheel of karma and begin to progress up the ladder of reincarnation again. Jesus was the perfect example of what each person had within them and what they were capable of attaining. But still, they just didn't understand. His perfection frightened and confused them. They feared him because he was different, and their only solution was to kill him. It's still kind of happening today with people that give like enlightenment advice, but the world is definitely opening up more to it, just not as much as we'd like to, as much as us starseeds would like to. He had gained understanding of the mind and thus did not have to suffer extremely on the cross. He was able to leave the body at will and died sooner than was normal. Long, prolonged suffering was not the point. The example and the contrast were. In this way, he truly died for all mankind. If he had not lived, man would still be groping in the dark without the shining example of his perfect life. I love how she ended that, and it does kind of remind me that when, I forgot what author, I don't know if it was Dolores Cannon or if it was the other hypnotist that I read. I forgot his name. I can't think of it right now. But apparently, I don't know who it was, but one of these past lives in one of these books, someone goes back to the Salem witch trials and they were being burned at the stake, blah, blah, blah. What happens is, allegedly the soul already leaves the body way before actually even being burned or actually being tortured like that. I don't know, it just has the ability to do that, okay? And then all the cries and the screaming and the agony that you hear from the body is allegedly the soul not experiencing that, but it's just maybe like the tiniest fraction of like the soul still in the body, or I don't know how it works. Like, I don't know how the body could still be screaming and stuff like that without a soul in there. I don't know how. There's got to be like a sliver of the soul still there or something, like an echo of it. But apparently the soul has already escaped the body once it's being tortured like that, because apparently through death, and if it fully is your time to die, then you're just going to leave the body, and that you can leave the body immediately so you don't experience the pain. That's just what they say. Should I try to read that other page? 269 and 270. Let me see. Yeah, I think you guys need to know. So Dolores says what happened to Jesus. Okay, I'm not even gonna say like Dolores and then Sudi. I'm just gonna read it. Okay. So what happened to Yeshua? He eventually went back to the others to be with the masters and our God as we know him. Did anyone watch this happen? It is said that his mother was there, and that they saw that there was a blending of light, and then it was no more. As he went to the other place, would that be a way of saying it? Yes. Where is Jesus now? Is he on the plane that you're on? He's actually with the masters. He's not here. I am not anywhere near that level. Do you know what level that is on? Sudi says the 9th at least, very close to 10th level. Level, I'm thinking dimensions, or yeah, dimensions. How many levels are there altogether? 10 is perfection. If he is on that level, you would have no way of seeing him now, is that correct? Unless he came to ours, then no. I see, we've heard stories where people say they have seen him. I do not doubt. I mean, many years after he had left the earth. But to us, a year is just an instant, therefore how is this not possible? Would he allow people on earth to see him then, if he wished to? Perhaps if there was something for this individual that must needs be done and they still had doubts, would he not reveal himself to them, letting them know that they believed in truth? According to the belief system, it would help them. He was showing frustration, trying to make us understand. I'm finding great difficulty if there was a great task for this person, such as to spread the word that he lived, and to let others know of this, would he not reveal himself to them, so that they would know that what they believed is right? I thought that maybe he was busy on the other level. He would never come down to earth for things like that. If he had not care of man, he would not have come in the first place. Dolores says, can you tell us the reasons for his death by crucifixion in our time, or where we're looking at it from? It is said that he died for our sins. There is some disagreement about this. Are we not responsible for our own actions? This is a very weighty question. Dolores says it has many answers, I suppose. He says, there are many influences upon those answers. He was to be crucified so that he could be ridiculed by others, to show that when he again lived, that he was able to rise above this, and that we too are able to rise above this. This is something that he needed to go through for his own lessons as well as other meanings. That he was not as perfect, and is not as perfect as others would possibly want to assume. That he was willing to pay the penalties and show that we should not be afraid of them also, and in paying for what we have done, then we can rise above that. This is part of the reasoning behind that, is to show that it can be done by man, that man can do such things. Dolores says, then when they say that he died for the sins of all the people in the world, does that make any sense? He says, how can he die for someone else's sins? You must all pay for your own. If not this time around, then perhaps the next, or even the next. But ultimately, you must endure what you have made others endure because of you. Dolores says, in his life, his dying will not wipe out other people's sins. And he says, there is a law of grace that will exist, but it is not because he paid for your sins, but because you would accept him as being worthy and perhaps a messenger of God. And the law of grace deals with God's love for you, but not because he died for the sins. She says, well, then people are misinterpreting this, right? And he says, yeah, it's very possible. Man misinterprets many things. Dolores says, we should try to be like him, but this does not necessarily mean that we have to follow him in such a way that we worship him. It is the way that he has shown us that we need to emulate. Is this correct? He says this is correct. He is a point of almost worship, but because he could do it, and he showed that it could be done, therefore he is to be marveled at, but not necessarily to be worshipped, not to be defied, because we all are a part of God. She says, do you think he wants to be worshipped? He says he wants to be remembered, but perhaps not in the way that many shall remember him. Basically, what he had in mind was a concept similar to a guide, a spirit guide to guide people to greater enlightenment, to help them achieve greater power, to help them become more spiritual in their perceptions. He was a guide, an example, like a good friend who is helping with advice. We're all part of God. Some are more aware of this than others, and I would say that he is one of these such people. But, oh my god, I'm gonna stop there. I'm just basically reading like the whole book at this point, and it's just like, I don't need to read any further. So just go read the book if you really are enjoying and resonating with the information that I'm saying. I really resonate with it. Once again, I don't blindly believe every single thing that is mentioned. You have to use your discernment, and just like the way the information feels to you is, I feel like, the only way that you can tell if it's true for you or not. That's just like the moral compass that I use, like the compass that I use to gather what's real or not. If you don't like that being your way of truth, then don't even read it, like don't even bother. But I am very open to a lot of information, a lot of interpretations, and I know there's a lot of stuff that needs to be explained, so this is why I read things like this, because it's just a different angle of the reality that we know of. So go get this book if you're open to the information. I thought it was incredible, and I thought it was so amazing, and there was just a lot of positive energy that came through reading it, and I feel like if you're open to it, you should definitely read it.